As Elise and Atlas navigated the dense forest, a sudden tearing noise sliced through the air, chilling them to the bone. Startled, Atlas grasped Elise's shoulder, his expression filled with curiosity. He suggested investigating the source of the disturbance. Pushing through the underbrush, they stumbled upon a peculiar tear in the fabric of space, revealing a group of otherworldly creatures. One of the creatures emerged fully, its gaze fixating on the two children. With dread sinking in, Atlas acted swiftly, shoving Elise out of harm's way as the creature lunged towards them. The impact sent Atlas reeling, and he found himself being dragged towards the tier. Frozen in fear, Elise watched helplessly until a surge of determination coursed through her. Ignoring her trembling hands, she seized her basket of berries, smashing it over the creature's back. In response, the creature turned its attention to her, striking her with a forceful blow. As Atlas regained his footing, he armed himself, defensively between Elise and the creature. Their desperate struggle continued, with Atlas narrowly avoiding the creature's attacks. However, a moment of distraction proved costly as the creature struck Atlas, sending him crashing into a tree. Elise's cries pierced the chaos as she witnessed her brother's fall, her heart pounding with terror. The creature, undeterred, focused its aggression on Elise, inflicting a devastating blow that fractured her leg. With a firm grip on her, it began dragging her towards the rift, leaving Atlas helpless to intervene. In his final moments of consciousness, Atlas glimpsed a glimmer of hope as an arrow pierced the creature. Neck and darkness descended upon him. Saved by the hunters from their village, Elise and Atlas survived the harrowing encounter, the echoes of the tearing sound fading into the night, leaving behind a haunting reminder of the dangers lurking in the shadows. Chapter. As the fight against the mages raged on, Atlas could feel his body weakening. He had already taken down 3 of the giant ogre-like mages, but he could feel his magical reserves dwindling. Meanwhile, Elise was holding her own against her 3 opponents, but the mages were proving to be formidable adversaries. Suddenly, one of the mages broke away from the fight and flew towards the party members, preparing a powerful magic artifact. Atlas knew that he had to act quickly, but he was blocked by the second mage, who used wind magic to throw him back towards Elise. But Elise was quick on her feet and used her own wind magic to redirect Atlas into the blind spot of the third mage. Atlas took advantage of the situation and decapitated the third mage with his sword. But before he could make his way to the mage with the artifact, it had already activated. Atlas knew that he couldn't stop the attack, so he threw himself between the artifact and his party members. As the attack hit, Atlas felt his body disintegrating, but he could hear a voice in the back of his head, urging him to get out of there. It was the voice of his sister, who had always been protective of him. But Atlas ignored her plea, and instead imagined all of his strength flowing into her. As he closed his eyes, he saw a dim, golden aura surrounding him. The aura mixed with the red and black light from the attack, and Atlas's spirit absorbed the massive spell. He defied the laws of the universe and directed all of the power into one thought. Elise better make it out of this alive. In that moment, Atlas sacrificed himself for the sake of his party, members and the world. But his spirit lived on, infused with all the love and compassion he had for his sister. Chapter. Elise walked slowly towards the pile of dust where her brother once stood. She kneeled down and reached out, picking up a small metal plate with an inscription from Atlas. "I saw death yesterday on my watch. I know I won't make it out of this fight." Elise read out loud, her voice breaking slightly. "I know you will hurt for a long time, but I don't want you to get lost. Become the pillar for the future, find a husband, and please carry on. I love you, Atlas." Elise closed her eyes and held the metal plate close to her chest. Tears didn't come, but her heart felt shattered. She stood up in a daze and began walking with a blank expression, passing through the many battlefields that had taken the lives of her party members. As she walked, a small gremlin monster suddenly jumped out and stabbed her in the shoulder, the point of the dagger poking out the front, its tip glistening red. Elise turned, slashed the creature's throat, still with the dagger lodged in her shoulder. For 3 days and nights, Elise walked without stopping until she finally arrived at the capital, dagger still in her shoulder. The guards at the gate tried to stop her, but they froze up when they met her eyes and let her pass. Elise then made her way to the palace, where the royal guards tried to stop her, but also let her pass when they realized who she was. Elise finally stood before the king and explained what had happened in the fight and how the others had fought honorably. Only after her audience with the king, and when she returned, to her and Atlas's room did she finally let her emotions out, falling to her knees and crying uncontrollably. Days passed, and Elise didn't leave her room. She remained isolated, feeling the pain of losing her brother and the others. However, one day, she decided to leave the room and go for a walk around the city. As she walked, she heard someone calling her name. It's still a work in progress, my ADHD mind jumping from scene to scene without properly finishing any. The story focuses of Elise and Atlas as the world changes. The main world is like our medieval age knights, kings and farmers, and another world, with the slight change that it has magic. And the creatures from that world studied magic instead of science, and are now having issues with resources and land. Instead of looking up to the stars and going to other planets, they use magic to find another Earth and are trying to invade it all. That gets explained in 3 or so half-finished chapters. But the main stories is gonna be Elise and Atlas learning to make use of the limited magic that seeps into their world when the rifts open and trying to stop the creatures from destroying their world. Creating adventurer guilds and teaching magic how to fight these creatures. In a fight to defend the capital, Atlas intercepts a massive spell, and through a way I have yet to properly explain grants his sister immortality.